How do angels enlighten humans? Or how do angels communicate with or speak to humans? This question was asked in a text from the 1200s. And it's the answer as well as the context of the question are, I think, themselves very enlightening. So first, I will talk about the context in which the question arises, and then give how the question is answered. The question is in the context of a wide vision of the universe and its relation to its source, its first cause as well as its final end or goal. And the name in English commonly given to the source of all reality of the universe is God. The word God is naming that source, but not telling us what it is. And so in this writing by the thinker and saint Thomas Aquinas is talking about the universe in its relation to God as having three main aspects or forms of the relationship. That the God, the source of the whole universe, is the source of the existence of the universe and all its parts, all things in it. God is also the source of the continuance in existence at every moment of the universe and all its parts. And thirdly, God is the source of all changes and transformations, growth and evolution in the universe. So God is the source of the being, the continuance, the preservation of the universe, and the transformations and changes of the universe. So there was an ancient Greek poet who said that in God we live and move and have our being. He's mentioning those same three but in a different order. In God we have our being, our very existence. In God we live, we continue to have existence, and in God we move, we change, we grow, we transform. The Hindus, interestingly, have this same division of three. They picture God with three forms and have three names: Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Brahma, the creator; Vishnu, the preserver; and Shiva, the transformer. Sometimes just one aspect of transformation, destruction, is named, but it's the transformer. So God as the creator, the cause of the existence and being of things. God as the preserver, keeps things in existence, and God as the transformer. So God is seen not only as the source of being, of bringing things into being, or emanating into being, but that at every moment, existence is flowing into everything that exists from God, the source of existence. One image that was used is of clouds and light. That the cloud, when the sun is shining on a cloud, it's luminous. It seems to be white and radiating light. But if you take away the light of the sun, the cloud is no longer itself luminous. So the analogy that God is like the sun, light is like existence, everything that has existence is receiving at every single moment the existence. So in this view, we don't have to look back in time just to a beginning, if there was a beginning, or as the activity, the influence, or the effect of the creative source of the universe. But every moment, every now, is being received. The existence of every moment, the creation is occurring at every moment. We are dependent for existence. Everything that has existence is dependent at every moment from the source of existence. And every change and transformation has its origin in that source. So this is a very vast and full, complete image of God, the source of all existence, not simply as something that begins or puts things in motion, but is the source and cause of everything that exists, continues, and changes. And so in the context of this wide vision, in the third part, the God is the source of transformations in the universe. Aquinas sees God as not only making things to be, to exist, to be good, but as making things to be causes of other things, to be real causes, and causes of goodness of other things, and enlightenment of other things. So God gives the world not only being existence, but the kind of share in causality and kind of creativity within the universe itself. The universe really does have powers of influencing between the parts that are real and from this ultimate source. And the parts of the universe, the main parts of the universe, as Aquinas sees it, are the spiritual realm part of the universe, the material, bodily, physical, natural realm, and the human. The human being composed of both the material and the spiritual. So some of the Islamic philosophers had a beautiful image of humans. They said humans are the creatures on the horizon, who exist on the horizon. The horizon is the line where heaven and earth meet. Heaven being a symbol of the spiritual part of the universe, and earth, the material, and the horizon being where humans are placed within the universe. The intersection of the ascending material world, ascending toward greater consciousness and interiority, and the bottom of the descending world of the spirits, to touch matter. So in these three parts then, Aquinas then questions how the three parts act upon themselves and the other parts. The unity of the universe arises from and involves this acting upon of the parts on each other. If the parts of the universe did not really influence and act upon and give and receive between one another, there would be much less unity. The parts would be very isolated within themselves, not needing one another, not depending, not influencing, not helping, not enlightening and benefiting one another. So the three parts, Aquinas will ask about how they act upon and move and change one another. How angels act upon angels, how humans act upon humans, how bodily things act upon bodily things. But then also between them, how angels act on humans, how angels act on bodies, how humans act on angels, how humans act on bodies, how bodies act on humans, and how, if they do, bodies act on angels. So of all the parts, you can ask, how do they act upon one another? And this is, of course, talking about it in a general way and in relation to each other. How do angels act on humans in relation to the way angels act on other angels? Are there similarities and differences? And that's the question that we are focusing on and seeing how Aquinas answers that question. So in this vision of the universe, there is a great importance given to the parts acting on one another, and among those forms of action, of giving and receiving, of acting upon and undergoing, there is a special place given to how the parts communicate with other parts, how they manifest to other parts what is within themselves. And so also then there is a importance given to interiority, and that some parts within the universe have more interiority and a richer inner world and inner life than other parts, and that this is not a matter of selfish power or exaltation, but it is then a basis of communication and love between the parts. If one part has light, wisdom, inner riches that another part does not have, this allows for a loving communication and reception of the interiority and inner richness of one part with another part. And this is seen as very profound and central to the interplay within the universe. So as we kind of move up in a metaphorical sense, or move through from the bodily physical parts of the universe through the human up to the angelic spiritual, there is greater interiority, consciousness, knowledge, and love, and greater inner richness, and greater communication and sharing and participation and we could say intimacy between the parts. So beings have different capacities for interior life and different capacities for sharing that interiority with others. And so in that showing of what is inside to another being is included the angels communicating and enlightening humans. Enlightening meaning showing what is within, showing thoughts and truth and awareness to someone else. So we can ask, in this view of the universe where communication of what is within is so central and what kind of gives the different parts their different roles and their different places. How does this occur in a general way between the parts? So we can start with, say, in the natural world, animals, of which we are included. When animals, how do they share what is within themselves to the extent that they're able to? It seems to be, as far as we can observe, a lot of it is through sensible signs of what is within, through things that can be perceived in some sensation, through some sense, vision, hearing, kinds of touch. So birds will make sounds, and those sounds seem to be signs of what is within the bird, inner desires, inner emotions, and animals will give signs of anger, signs of desire, signs of contentment. And through different sensible means, but a very common one, and one that has a lot of depth and capacity for subtle expression, is sound. And humans use that. We use words, which are sounds that are signs of what is within us. Without those signs, it would be very difficult, to say the least, to know much of what is inside of us. So if I just sat here and didn't speak, but just thought, it would be difficult for you to get much of what I'm thinking unless I use a sensible sign to communicate that to you. So in this case, words, and also expressions and symbols, images. Now, among the angels, Aquinas asks, how do the angels speak to and communicate with each other? And he says, well, being spirits, immaterial spirits without bodies, they do not exist in space and time as we do, and they do not rely on bodily senses that move to one another through bodily media, like through the air or the light waves. So the angels, he says, communicate to one another in kind of pure spiritual light. They don't need words to communicate or speak to one another. They simply turn to another angel and will to manifest their thought. So they turn to one another by acts of the will, choice. So they don't turn in space, like to turn to face you as we do in a physical, but it's a metaphor that they turn to one another is by an act of the will. In the angelical world, will and thought have a reality that has intensity and being and presence and effectuality far beyond what we find in this world, but we still find it in our world and our life in a very profound way. So the angels choose to open up some of their inner world, their inner thought, to another angel, and just by doing that, it is that light is transmitted. So then we come to our question, well, what about the angels communicating, showing, and enlightening humans? Aquinas says it's in a way similar to what happens between the angels, and it's in a way different from what happens between angels. And so it's also, there's a way, an aspect that's similar to animals communicating, and it's dissimilar to how animals communicate. So the angels, in communicating to humans, the difference is the receiver. And if someone is teaching and trying to share knowledge and truth with another, that will be shared in a way that depends in part on the condition of the student or the hearer. So knowledge will be transmitted differently to children than to adults, differently to beginner students than to advanced students. Beginners might need many examples, and more advanced students, a few examples will suffice. So there are differences. And so when the angels want to show things to humans, it will be similar to the way they show things to angels in a partial aspect of the light. Aquinas says the angels can communicate light and strengthen our lights, kind of as if the nearness of the higher, more powerful mind and consciousness strengthens and expands our mind and consciousness and its capacity. But different than when the angels can communicate in pure light or pure thought, pure spiritual communication, they will respect our human nature in communicating with images, and images in a broad sense of sensible signs. So we think of images as visible, that's common, but imaginary things, such as things we can imagine, such as sounds, touches, all aspects of sensation. So, whereas the angels can be said to communicate with each other in pure light, they communicate with humans in light and image. Those two aspects. So images and light. And the reason being that that is natural to us. That is our natural way of understanding and thinking about things. if a teacher simply communicates things on a very universal, abstract level without sensible examples and illustrations, it's very hard and sometimes impossible to understand. But if the examples and illustrations, sensible examples are given, then it's much easier for us to understand. And because that's natural to us, being the creatures who are both in the sensible material world and in the spiritual world. So the angels respect our nature by communicating their illuminations to us commonly in image and light. So when Aquinas is talking about these things, he's giving kind of general principles. There's much more in all these questions to go into kind of subdivisions and particulars and refinements. But here we're talking about some general distinctions and comparisons of angels communicating with the other, angels to humans, animals communicating. So let's give an example of this, and this is a source also of a lot of the thinking of Aquinas and the people who are having these discussions. And so there are many examples in the Bible, the stories and histories of the Bible, in both the New Testament and Old Testament, or the Jewish Hebrew Bible. There are many accounts of humans receiving illuminations and communications from angels. It's really a basis of their tradition, their culture. We could say their religion, spiritual tradition, but their whole culture is includes and has key elements received as transmissions and enlightenments from angels. The word angel is just Greek for messenger. In Hebrew, malach, malachim means messengers also. So these spiritual messengers who they experienced as communications of giving messages of illuminations. And these people who receive these communications describe them as consisting of images and light. And it's helpful to see the difference in taking an example where the image and light are given separately, as they sometimes were. Sometimes one person would receive the image and another person would receive the light. Sometimes the same person would receive both. Sometimes one person would receive the image and later the light. There's one among these many stories is when some of the Jews were in exile in Babylon, the ruler of Babylon had received a vision in dream and received an image of a statue with a head of gold, torso of silver, thighs of bronze, and legs of iron. And along with this image, he was giving a powerful emotional charge that impelled him to both experience and seek the meaning of the image. But he didn't have it. He only had the image, but not the light. So this ruler sought out gifted people who might be able to enlighten him on the image, interpret the image, and in this example, the light was given to Daniel, the prophet Daniel. And so Daniel then explains what the image means to the ruler and interprets it in terms of different kingdoms and historical events and process. So in this case, the ruler received the image and Daniel received the light. And that helps see that the angels, the distinction there, and the angels communicate to humans commonly in image and light, but sometimes one or the other, and sometimes given to the different people or one person at different times. Now we can finish this reflection on how the angels communicate to humans by one practical point. The aspect of the will involved in this communication and manifestation of what is within to another part of creation, another person. So we saw how Aquinas talks about the will as the turning of one angel to another angel, willing to communicate something within and then to receive. And with humans, Aquinas has a phrase, the secrets of the heart. And by this, he is naming the deep inner things within a human that even the angels do not know. That other people don't know the angels, but only the divine source knows, unless we freely choose and will to show, to share and open that with another being that is capable of receiving that, whether a human person or an angel. And so we, even in our relationship with the angels, our will and our choice is very important. And we can make the act of the will, in a sense, turn to the angel and open up things within us to the angel, so that the angel can know us more deeply and then be able to guide and enlighten us better and more. And this is one aspect of prayer. Prayer, like words of prayer, are signs of acts of the will, many of them, and that's the essence of them, is the act of the will. The words or rituals or forms are meant to elicit the will or express these acts of the will. So if we choose, we can turn more toward the angels, and we can choose to open things within us to the angels and receive more from the angels. The angels are sometimes said to have great respect for our freedom. They're not invasive. They await our turning to them through our will, and we ask them to turn to us with their will and their light. So that's what I wanted to share about that. At this point, that brings up, just in that, some interesting things that I would like to, I think would be interesting to develop further, such as what is an image more deeply, and also among humans sharing light with each other and communicating with each other, the use of words. What are words doing? What can they do? And what can they not do as far as enlightening one another and passing on knowledge and our inner world to one another.